Thanks for everyone being here today. We have Dan Raphael and Willie Smith, as you know. And our birthday poet was born on November 15th in St. Louis in 1887. She graduated from Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania as a biology major. She first published in 1915, and after 1919, she lived with her mother in Brooklyn, devoting herself to writing, contributing poetry and criticism to many journals throughout the U.S. and England. Her first book of poems was published in London in 1921. Her first published book in the U.S. was in 1924. She became editor of an influential American Journal of the Arts from 1925 to 1929. She was involved in the American suffrage movement, first as a student and later writing suffrage pieces for the Carlisle newspaper under pen names like M.M. She became celebrated and famous in the late 1930s throughout the end of her life, but remained humble regarding the accolades and awards she received. By the time of her death, she had received numerous honorary degrees and nearly every honor available to an American poet. Our birthday poet is...
Marianne Moore.
Oh, very good. She suffered a series of strokes in her last year, died in 1972, February 5th, 1972. Her ashes are interred with her mother's at the family's burial plot at the Evergreen Cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. I'm reading the paper Nautilus. For authorities whose hopes are shaped by mercenaries, writers entrapped by tea-time fame and by commuters' comforts, not for those paper Nautilus constructs her thin glass shell, giving her perishable souvenir a hope, a dull white outside and smooth-edged inner surface, glossy as the sea. The watchful maker of it guards it day and night. She scarcely eats until the eggs are hatched, buried eightfold in her 8 arms, for she, in a sense, a devilfish. Her glass ram-shorn cradle freight is hid, but is not crushed, as Hercules, bitten by a crab, loyal to the Hydra, was hindered to succeed. The intensively watched eggs coming from the shell free it when they are freed, leaving its wasp nest flaws of white on white, and close-laid ionic chitin folds like the lines in the mane of a Parthenian horse, round which the arms had wound themselves, as if they knew love is the only fortress strong enough to trust her. And that is Marianne Moore. So first up, we're going to have Willie Smith. Beacon Hill resident Willie Smith is deeply ashamed of being human. His work celebrates this horror. He has prowled the inner Seattle streets daily since 1976. He was born in a hospital outside Greenbelt, Maryland, and grew up in Alexandria, Virginia. In the late 60s, he worked as a logger in the same woods D.B. Cooper later jumped into. He received a B.A. in English or creative writing or something from Reed College in 1972. He was part of the 2007 Jack Straw Writers. He's published online in anthologies, literary journals, and a few books, including Nothing Doing. He is addicted to classical music, self-pity, stargazing, whole grain, lean meat, and fresh produce. His religion is walking. The world is his church. Willie.
Hallelujah.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction, Chris.
Sure.
Greenbelt, Maryland, they have a computer tracking center there now for satellites and such. Radiator cat. The cat lies on the radiator shelf, level true, hauling from the well of her being an ever deeper purr, perfecting her perception of motion perpetual. The iron coil below ticks, pops, clanks. The cat blinks, unable to see beyond ecstasy. This is not love. This is heat gathering above steam inside iron. The cat yawns, purr decreasing, easing into preparing a split second before the too hot to stand, stretch, and leap. The cat on the floor, shakes herself, forgetting the perfection of just before, squinting at while waiting for the next attempt at the tempting. This is not the flower. This is the cosmos. I'm a burger flipping robot about to flip out. Every fat patty beef mooing at the moon. Fry after fry too big for its britches. Buns Pat Boone not white enough to gobble. Mustard recycled mouse turd. Tartar sauce gives me the mechanical trots. Ketchup coming up. Fish witch on a broom sticking up your butt. Fork my eye. White spoon tongue. Polystyrene knife nose. Drop napkin over satisfied corpse. Curl up lips for a happy stiff. Notify next of kin with a takeout grin. Now the crowd to a salt and pepper. Take out a stripper. Take out a leper. Take out Jack the Ripper. Take out without rhyme or rhythm the here or to go algorithm. I'm a burger flipping robot about to flip out here. I wander the alley behind the go-go joint. My mind has got the trouts. The mouth runs on. The dawn breaks over the rooftops. The night in the dumpster rots. My head spins. Spider atop, spiraling threads discussed in circles. Weave in parables. Slur hyperbolically. Elliptically cuss. Section 8. I point between walls and a strip of sky. My meat grind against the dumpster. Nobody dances for me, so dance for myself I must. Must of sour wine, stale urine, garlic puke, long gone come, float. While I carry on wrestling to resuscitate lust's carrion. Wander the alley so sulphurously babbling, none but myself can brook the spew. I'm broken on the wheel behind the eye of every bone in the argument. I adore the snap like a saint, the crack under to heaven adore. I wander up the alley behind the go-go joint. Nobody dances for me, so dance for myself I must. Thank you, you're very kind.
It's a sad poem.
I'll dedicate this piece to May, four-legged friend. Let me be your dog. I want to tear up your socks, lick out your bowl, and howl at the moon we both love and do not know. I want to be your steward and choose a wine for every stew. See, there's whole grain in your bread and your butter 100% cream. I want to be your cook and fix a roast till fall apart at the touch. Toss you a salad so beautiful you'll feel in it. Mince onions like nobody's business. Betray the depth of desire with a tort. Served in flambeau, garnished with horse chestnut. I want to be your dog and root out the radish, lap the arugula in your lap, and beat out time while the full moon stands overhead at midnight, and we in the bushes bury the bone. Let me be your dog. A new way out. She rants and she rants at the entrance to a trance. She waits for the craven raven to cease to rave high in the pine, flushed off the corpse by her hurry. Then she goes into it, to intuit a new way out. And in that night, inside that cave, beyond the rot, longer than the hunger, heavier than the lust, she knows me to be by the nose. She bear, she bang, she male, she yang, she rants at the entrance to a trance. I walk down the street, I feel completely neat. I don't need to be stirred. I go into it, to intuit firefly toes, because I'm already crazy wild bugs, all but sewn into a shroud, lightning bug caught in a web, still sending into the still humid night the remorselessness of gut glow, of chartreuse code, of dash and dot in the riptide blood calling rebels in the hills. And there is no rebel, she never ranted at the entrance to a trance. I walk down the street. I feel completely neat. I don't need to be mixed. I feel all meat electrically expressed, kneaded anew from the dough of a lewd mildew, dead dude, who is me, howling and raving a new way out. She rants at the entrance. Ah, yeah. I should have worn my suspenders tonight. This is a commentary on American international diplomacy.
Keep your pants
Buckle
on.
up.
It's called Redneck Rain Dance. It threatened rain, so I got out my gun, got in the car, and gunned it on down to the graveyard where it was dark and nobody would know, but I knew the clouds would see clear. I got out, got my gun out, fired myriad rounds at the atmosphere, and gunned down the clouds. Fog fell in patches, then cleared. I got my gun down, headed for the car. Overhead, stars started to appear, and I again began to breathe in fear. The more fired at, the more the stars broke out. I shot more and more flared up. I shot up the sky, then drove home, sad as hell. Shot the dog, shot the wife, shot my playboys. Finally reloaded and waited for the sirens that never came. It began to rain. I got in the car, backed out over the dog, laid a patch on the wife's ass, got going real good, and gunned it on down to the graveyard, where it was dark and nobody would know. But I knew the clouds would see clear. And I'll end my portion of the reading with a prayer. God in hell. Dear God in hell, make my life big and swell like a thumb hit with a hammer. Make my life dumb and crammed with yammer and with death and all its glamour. Because, oh my dear God in hell, it is so good and well that I am what I hammer. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. And our next featured poet, Dan Raphael, was born in Pittsburgh. Since moving to Portland in 1977, he's been active in the poetry community as poet, performer, editor, reading organizer. His 21st book is Manything, which is on my counter over there. And he has previous books including Everyone in This Movie Gets Paid and Impulse and Warp, the collected 20th century poems. Manything got its name because of the wide variety of visions, voices, and vocabularies in it. Dan is known for his passion, humor, and imagination in his work and his performances. He's read throughout the Northwest, including Bumbershoot, Powell's Books, Cascadia Poetry Festival, Reed College, the Portland Jazz Festival, etc. Most Wednesdays, he writes and records a current event poem for the KBOO Evening News. Dan, come on down.
Yeah, thanks all for coming here. Wow, here in mighty Kirkwood. No, isn't it?
Kirkland.
Kirkland, okay.
Trees are gone.
Kirk. Beam us up. Yeah. First poem, Josiah's first poem was written in Seattle, which is on the other side of the lake, right? Okay. And my friends Randy and Jane's house. You might recognize it. Morning in another house. I hear birds, but not rain. I see rain, but not birds. The wooden floors don't talk to the trees. Electricity is still asleep. Wind is in church. Two cats on two corners waiting for someone else. The house has many questions, but knows we can't hear with our bones. Even the Wi-Fi can't go everywhere in here. The tiny fish the cats exhale in their sleep can't swim from one door to the other. As the roof is both earth and sky, we're so fortunate to live between them, never fully at ease. I know that Seattle is a much greater city than Portland, where I live, but and we even have much better traffic than we do. Much worse, but at least I figured out the solution in Portland, and maybe it applies here too. Someone's paying people to drive during rush hour. Go north on the Beltway, then back south, repeat. Natural job fit for those with cars but not houses, for those whose cars are their houses. stirring up road rage, more accidents, more repairs, higher insurance, and road wear, more well-bellied men leaning on tools and equipment. Win-win. Will the roads get wider? No, more bicycle lanes. Will the buses get closer to where people live? No, light rail with even fewer stops. How better to encourage pedestrians than building 4-story condo blocks right up to the sidewalk's edge and adding 70 new residents without parking spaces? It encourages lawn parking and work from home. More buildings, more mass, more gravity, more stuff falling here, more detours, more lost. We're a little heavier, a little slower. Stay home, switching between the food, exercise, and travel channels. 3 countries in an hour. I'm starving. I say Chinese. The phone knows who to call and what to order. We're saving money on lawn maintenance by paving more. Fewer birds, less bird shit. I'm not sure who the squirrels are working for. Wiggling into attics and chewing wiring. Not easy to locate the rotting carcass between your walls, to remove the crows stuck in your chimney. Cap those chimneys and let the next residents be surprised. Every day I'm exhorted to sell my house, fix my roof, change my insurance, my phone and TV provider. Employment brokers charge application fees for jobs that don't exist. Instead of a new tax, make everyone buy a bus pass. Use your food stamp card to buy gasoline. Airbnb and Uber are merging so you can pick someone up in your car and charge them to sleep in it. I patented that so you can't use it. Streets, breathe. Blossom without light, reflecting other blossoms. Not territorial, but horizon widening, as I'm on both sides of the street at once, as I'm lining the sidewalk as if waiting for a parade, flotillas stuck down unpaved alleys. When given the option, go straight and parallel. My presbyopia makes the sun a constellation of fire, like a glass-roofed house seen from above, house on its own island, island on a multi-jointed mechanical arm, sweeping the border between day and night, between direct and shadow. The street breathes, pulling me to both edges, unclogging my airway. The street coughs to evict me, to remove my footprints climbing out of its sky lung, busy with alveolic clouds, soft turnstiles and slow propellers, one spin a week, shadow, light, shadow, dappling micro switches, coin flipping turbines. More wing, less body. Bird sharks inhaling nuggets of formless meat. Sugar without a crystal to consult. Fence unraveled till I'm cloaked in it. A moving fence, leashless. Needs a permit to be higher, to interrupt the migrations beneath the street's scalp. And she slit the tops of bread before baking so those who want to get out can. Exhaling, inhaling sweat. I'm much too young to help the street. Too short-lived to hear more than a sentence. A speculative poem about one of Seattle's most famous people. If Jimi hadn't died so young. In this world, Jimi Hendrix didn't die at 27, but kept advancing his prowess on the guitar, playing two at once, multiple strings. Like Chaplin, he could do anything he did backwards as well, and sometimes would start a song in the middle and go 4 or 6 different ways from there, ensphering himself and listeners in shifting laminae of sound. At a show in Philly, most of the audience blacked out. Several suffered stroke-like symptoms, 2 disappeared. With a lawsuit filed by a victim, the government seized Jimmy's guitars, the Pentagon volunteering to study the evidence. More guitars were built. More people plugged into Hendrix and played guitar several hours a day. No one knew if Jimmy was in jail, hiding, or if his playing had opened new dimensions in vibratory time. Are we still on the same world we started on? What chords could I make with 9 strings and 7 fingers? Reports of others disappearing while Hendrix played with the feds suppressing the total. On March 1st, a 10-meter tall, transparent creature, emitting guitar-like sounds, shattered a 2-kilometer stretch of the Great Wall of China, then vanished in a rancid fog. In paranoid anticipation, guitarists cleared store shelves of strings. The sun rises with ear-splitting feedback, surrendering to an arpeggio of random vertebrae. Nerve triggers ranging from St. Vitus to waltz, many unable to drive because they couldn't keep their feet still. Radios were ignored. No earbuds could keep out the panoply of music, body finding new limbs, my feet trading mycorrhizally while my suddenly tendrilled hair embraces the pollen-filled sky. Billions of microscopic notes ready to bloom into life-expanding solos. Some neighborhoods so thick with music you need neither amplifier or guitar. You and the air collaborating solos to take us where we never could be.
Nice.
Is that what acid's like?
I have a quote on back of one of my earlier books, which a person had said after reading, a person I didn't know, and after hearing the audience, or outside, the woman was saying to the guy she was with, "Do you think he's ever taken acid?" And he said, "Taken it, I think he wears a patch." So, I don't know how people get that impression. Yeah. Okay.
An awesome ride.
Yeah, well, this is, okay, again, I use the first person pronoun a lot, but it's not usually about me, but at least the title of this poem is true. I love geography. A map in shreds. Maps shred made into a globe. Light shines through, improper projection. Right side up, ask the sun. No stars below. The map behind the map. A virgin grid. Crow versus car. Bicycle with pogo stick wheels to jump cars and fences. Streets not on the map. 32 Google camera cars exploded on the same day. The satellite realized it was orbiting the wrong planet. Mapped gift wrap, mapped lampshade, hemispheric pajamas. A map of reeds and shells. My palm maps my life. 4 colors to avoid adjacent bleeding. A 19th century map. A map of the land beneath Antarctica. For a week, the Earth had no magnetic lines. It came back with new assignments and uniforms. My nav system only speaks Korean. I spent days origamiing the map into an almost sphere. My land and ocean were in separate huddles. When it rained, dirt, shoveling water that's not frozen, road paved with maps. The square tattooed on his bicep is the outline of his home state. If the mountains were pressed flat and the land allowed to flow freely, soon China and India will overlap. As ice shrinks, borders swell. Instead of Oregon, the map says mine. I photoshopped the map to take out topographic wrinkles. You can't spell check the map. The map of where we're going won't come out till next summer. With my magnifying glass, I eliminated St. Louis. From free maps to maps that charge you every time you look at them. Homing shoes, never get lost. I asked the map for directions, got no answer. Put a tinfoil map on my head and had nowhere to go. Roll up that $100 map and let's rail some mileage. All the names have been replaced with coordinates. Is that the horizon or a fold? Some are obsessions, and sometimes just something sparks it through. February 4th, 1915, there was this picture of a small plane crashing into a freeway in Taiwan. He said that the plane was almost perpendicular to the freeway, and it was pretty crazy. A plane could fall from the sky. My car could start constricting like an anaconda that already swallowed me without my wings. A sun that smells like a sewer. A swimming pool where people hold their breath for half an hour or more. I can't see the bottom. Someone else's clothes are in my locker, her face in the mirror. When opening a door is like entering a busy freeway. Yield signs are popular in bedrooms and keep disappearing. I mime starting a car until a key appears in my hand. Keep turning the key until a steering wheel. I reach over my shoulder and grab someone's tie. The street is mirrored. The bridge's surface is mesh. Hundreds of aluminum ears catch the wind and hold up the bridge. 6 lanes in the middle, but only 1 at each end. Clear tubing with miniature people in Scarrow model boats racing across the river and under the street. Every time I bleed, I smell the ocean and hear a seagull trying to say my name. To change your beak is to change your diet, is to transform your body chemistry and turn the flag of your colors into the map of a different subway, where you can walk directly from one train to another, never touching the street. The elevator door opens into my apartment, rises to the 7th floor, and slides into its nest. The duvet, intensely quilted to resemble an ocean of meringue, starched to crackle like eggshells in an art gallery where anything you say is owned by someone wealthier. Some shop for eloquence. Some only buy words they don't know. Context is way out of my price range. I got a grant to collect bumper stickers from bumpers and patch the Arts Commission's roof. This drug may cause an uncontrollable urge to run north. It's raining warm fat. The traffic light oozes ketchup, mustard, and salsa verde. Warning gates cascade like a chorus line seen through a funhouse ceiling. All the clouds look like fish, while the river has streets and neighborhoods. One downtown bridge so unmedicated, not even bicycles would cross it. It's dangerous crossing bridges, planes. There's a lot of great food words. So. Hunger Town. 4 medium cost the same as 3 large, depending on who you're feeding, where they've been, what we started with, not counting the drinkage and druggage, gasoline fumes, winter or summer, what we can shoot along the way, whether they cut the pie into 8 or 10. I pulled up for chicken, but the suit was too small. A transgalactic pickup trying to dot an asteroid. Share the protein as you want. That's not my hand inside the glove, sprouting feathers like an instant forest, convincing us growth is easier. The weather is our puppet. Water just happens. Eat what you can catch, what you can afford when no one's looking. Don't let the pizza crust go to waste. What's the interest rate at the food bank? Free the seeds. A fence means you're paranoid. A road means you're running away, banished from the local because the cows no longer speak your language. Like changing channels, but you can't change back. Someone replaced the satellite with art. Electrified oil in unsettled water as the pool liner evaporates in rapture. Coy ghosts retain their skin from the lungs of the neighborhood. Herons we all have to pay for, this close to the river. I don't want gravity to know. Grass explodes sidewalk. The tallest, not always the first to go, but soon. Or anyone out in the middle. Who would think of going against the stream and the wind? Random, invisible furniture. When the feng shui is perfect, the building transcends. Rivers reverse, clouds pulling up. We ascend mountains and get elemental, broader spectrum. How is a thunderstorm like a drive-through restaurant? Car wash re-automated to deliver the hot and seeping. We are not what we eat. Food is fuel. Work is paycheck. Nothing this tasty is given away. Close with this one, which closes the book. And I don't know. I don't say, but the inspiration was in this international arts photo book, which just randomly showed up in my house. This Japanese woman living in China made these series of photos of fairly young babies with their mothers, but the photos were messed with and the babies were bigger and there were symbols and background, and it was really got to me. One moon, one baby. Baby's too big in the moon, with mom tattooing GPS across skin time, an ancient script to identify, indemnify against the transposed background of architecture archaeologizing vases we can't make yet. Teeth biting through wire with persistent questions as charging arguments extol the raisin rain, extra virgin rain, rain we don't want talking to the car, ready to find a road like caramel anchovies stirred in milk without animal origin. Milk from magazines, milk from hopeless mountains. An oaken chest, now my chest. Not drawers, but pigeonholes switching places. A mechanized 3D chessboard without kings or bishops, but with botanists, lawyers, and DJs. We don't know how the pieces move when the board unfolds, where motorhome solar winds turn a field into a market. Market intelligence, market humor. I subscribe with a genome. The interest is mutation. We'll be out of bread tomorrow when the bakery's on sabbatical. When the day doesn't change just because of night, when nothing closes. We sleep in our workplaces, careful not to drift onto conveyor belts, into robot tentacles, suggesting 3 elbows per limb. Spherical wrists so I can write on my own hand, piercing the flesh with solder so bright and promising. Give us this day our daily voltage. Resistance defines character. I won't leap till I can glide. Ask the moon questions and watch its eyes. Lost like craters. Dust instead of tears escape before evaporating all the structural members beneath the eons of paint, the treatise, almost and maybes. The technology to take a picture in the same place once a month for 1,000 years is incompatible with our viewers. Rampant compression, pixelation, something fresh for breakfast with the wings too milk damp to more than buzz and shimmer. The challenge of vertical. Coffee like magnets, soil receiving seeds, encrypting their own tails as the sun chases its offspring moon, enwrapped with long-leashed freedom, breaking away the bucket we were saving to shower when the sun gets so naked even our bones begin to sweat. We couldn't touch ourselves, hands slipping through, fingers like ripe fruit. The flies volunteer to flesh us, mosquitoes ready to change our fluids and vacuum our interiors for 1999. Who would want a baby they couldn't name? A baby we had to change continents to live with. Have a tongue transplant to learn the language programmed in the baby's third eye. Baby running before it could hold a fork. Refusing to wear any color but black. Only drinking when it's underwater. Baby who won't sleep when the moon's above, no matter how intense the cloud cover or daylight. How deep we bury the baby in concentric libraries as the whole village tells their stories. The baby transcribes in overcooked cereal, transforming the torrent of post-industrial formula into sculptural gardens we run through, ecstatically shedding our skin with the multi-barbed stamens of the baby's galactic teardown and remodel. If you lived in this baby, you'd be where now? Behind the wheel of this one-over baby, still under warranty, Stevie singing, maybe your baby's done made some other plans. The moon staying full just to see who'll show up. Electrician, demolition, bill collector, midwife, moon shunting all the sun throws to ignite its own cherry center, to release this adolescent star, massaging the earth with ripe gravitic fingers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Poem starter, 1111. The ghost apple president insists we admire the empty fruit, ignore the mess on the ground, but he has people to clean his shoes.
Well, I've only got a couple more months to read this poem while it's still timely. Because this year was in the news a lot for a whole variety of reasons. And this poem got started actually as a prompt where I had to write a poem about a song on a classic album. Anyhow, the prompt sort of got away from me, put it mildly. It's called 1969, a suite in 3 parts. Prelude 1. Mom, can I go to Woodstock? In August of 1969, I am 10 years old. On school nights, my bedtime is 8 p.m., which puts me pretty much out of the loop when my 5th grade classmates are discussing the cool TV shows in the morning before the bell. I think I was 16 before my curfew was raised to 10 o'clock. Nonetheless, I'm optimistic about my chances. After all, I live in Rochester in upstate New York, only a couple of hours' drive to Yasgur's farm, and I feel this gives me an edge over kids in, say, Ohio or Nevada. No, my mother replies. It's not fair, I protest. Lydia Lunch's parents said she could go, and I'm invited. Her babysitter, Kathy Acker, said she'd be our chaperone, so we'll have proper adult supervision. Hunter Thompson is going to drive us on the back of his Vincent Black Shadow, so you know it'll be totally safe. You're grounded, explained my mother, and I'm locking your comic books in the pantry for a week. Lydia Lunch is from Rochester, New York. She is my age. In 1977, when we are both 18, we will tell our lousy, reactionary, square, voted for Nixon parents to stuff it and shake the dust of our podunk industrial wasteland shithole hometown off our shoes. Lydia heading for New York City, where she will become the undisputed queen of the no-wave music and film scene. Me to Los Angeles, where I will learn to operate a 10-key calculator by touch. Only posterity will tell which one of us got the better deal. 2. Main theme. Ringo hated his life. Ringo was in the studio with George, working on a new song. George loved Ringo, but sometimes George talked to him as if he, Ringo, was an idiot. Ringo was pretty sick of all the Beatles. What he really wanted to do was to join Yoko Ono's band. There is a YouTube on the internet of Yoko and the Beatles jamming, a 1.5-minute fragment of Yoko screaming and highly distorted instruments bashing away that makes the Velvet Underground sound like the Beach Boys. And I'm sure a lot of the rage and aggression of this music was directly based on the conflicting threads of personal hatred connecting the participants. But in the middle of the maelstrom sat Ringo, drumming like a maniac, drumming like he was having the best time of his life, drumming like a release from bondage, A reprieve from those 2 years where he, Ringo, sat in the corner of the studio like a schmuck, smoking thousands of cigarettes and listening to some guy in a tuxedo from the Royal Philharmonic hit the same note on a timpani for 8 hours straight. Fuck that shit, that's not why he got into rock and roll. Ringo Starr, the man with the best backbeat in Liverpool. And don't even mention George and his goddamn tabla players. Anyhow, what has George got to be so smug about? Ringo knows for a fact that his neglected wife is running around with Eric Clapton. Ringo identifies a lot with Eric Clapton these days, but he is afraid of John. John loves Ringo too, but John is a mean drunk. And if he got wind of his mate's obsession with his new girlfriend, he might very well bust a pint of Guinness across Ringo's jaw. Not like George, who when confronted with any unpleasantness, just muttered Hare Krishna over and over again under his breath, and sequestered himself in a hotel room with the apple scruffs. The only Beatle who doesn't love Ringo is Paul. Paul wants all the love in the world for himself. Paul got rid of Pete Best so he could be the prettiest one in the band, and what possible threat could the dude with the enormous schnoz and backbeat be? Who would have guessed the son of a bitch was so lovable? Oh well, he was part of the corporation now, and Paul's job was to keep the corporation afloat. When Yoko first moved to London, Paul, as the only single Beatle, was the focus of her interest, but Paul was the kind of guy who would add one of his trite harmonies to Don't Worry Kyoko, It's Only Mummy's Hand Lying in the Snow, and then demand co-writing credit. Screw that guy. Ringo's love, however, was pure. His only dream was to be worthy to play on a song as good as Don't Worry Kyoko, It's Only Mummy's Hand Lying in the Snow. But for that to happen, he has to write a hit song for the new album. Ringo forces himself to pay attention once more to George's blather about chord changes. He will try. He will try not to be an idiot. 3. Coda. In 1943, there was a Warner Brothers cartoon, Hair Ribbon, directed by Robert Clampett. In it, Bugs Bunny and a hunting dog with a blonde pompadour and Hungarian accent trade insults for a minute, dive into a lake, and spend the remaining 6 minutes of wacky shenanigans totally underwater for no apparent reason, except for the animators playing with a ripple effect, and no explanation whatsoever as to why breathing and talking are able to continue unimpeded in what would seem to be unnatural and out of the ordinary circumstances. It is one of the most surreal things I have ever seen. It is 2019. In a top-floor penthouse of a huge Miami Beach high-rise, a secret conference is being held by a consortium of billionaire real estate tycoons, developers, and their highest-ranked political factotums. A large video screen to the left of the podium is playing The Coconuts, the Marx Brothers' first film from 1929 and one of the earliest sound pictures. Chico is trying to sell Groucho some swampland. No one is laughing. No one has laughed at The Coconuts in almost a century. It's a satire of the Florida land boom of the 1920s, and everyone who understood its points of reference are long since dead. The men at the conference watched the film like it was a documentary. The last time they laughed at a movie was 2006, when, in An Inconvenient Truth, Al Gore showed a PowerPoint map of their state 2/3 underwater. "Crazy Al," they screamed, guffawing and peeing their pants in derisive glee. That joke's over. Now they are looking at trillions of dollars of assets reduced to the value of an expired Safeway Monopoly game tab. And it's not just the 1% who will be affected. Regular folks, ones who are maybe counting on the little windfall nest egg from Grandma's condo in Fort Lauderdale when she croaked. What's that going to be worth when the only thing it'll be good for is a B&B for starfish? And what's going to happen to the millions who wake up and find their backyard is now part of the Gulf of Mexico? Florida has been the linchpin red state for every regressive and inhumane legislative and judicial policy for the last 40 years that have made our country into Satan's spawn in the eyes of the world.
Yeah.
Who in the other 49 states wants to take in this flood of crybaby entitled refugees when they come scratching at our doors in what future generations will refer to as the great asshole migration of 2069? Nobody! That's why Trump wanted to buy Greenland, so those fuckers would have a place to go!
The mood at the conference is bleak and somber. At the podium, a panel of gray-skinned scientists ramble incoherently about gill transplants, oxygen pills, nuclear-powered hydraulic ventilation systems. Suddenly, Dr. Strangelove, still alive, wheels himself on stage and grabs a mic, brushing the panel aside like so many mosquitoes. "Gentlemen," he booms, "I see no reason why it is our responsibility to incur the expenses of our customers' modifications. They will have to make their own adjustments because it is in their best interest. Like Bugs Bunny." At this, a curtain in back parted and a huge projection appeared on the wall, like a ray of sunshine. The once silent audience breaks into applause. Appearing before them was an artist's rendition of a 227-story high-rise. 220 of the stories are underwater. Over the display, a banner reads, "Cutting-edge retirement urban living. Studios start at $800,000. Welcome home. Welcome to Octopus Gardens." Thank you.
And now, the lady from Duval, Mary Crane.
Earthling. Some of us were meant to be earthbound, I was told. I dug roots, gathered herbs, dried leaves and seeds like a thief in the night, and was a good mother. Under the full moon, my arms carried baskets of fruit, my hands cupped and spilling with brimfuls of grain, my offering to children and lovers. I can no longer sleep through the dawn. I'll take to wing with the next wind and grow fins to plunge deep in the seas. I'll ride the imperative of gravity's pull, astride the meridians of whale song and ley lines, grasping a map of the stars. I'll migrate a dark season tempest of storms, penetrate deep into hurricanes' eyes, and cast off all memory of chaos, pleasure, desire, and loss. No one will catch me. Yes, I will come home to firmer ground, bearing the sounds of a non-human tongue, a creature of instinct, feathers, and scales, insisting on hope for the future.
Right on.
And this next one I actually started at a workshop here. It's called When I Used to Hike to Cherry Falls. Past the gauntlet of my steep rutted driveway and a quick slide through the yield sign at the hairpin on Mountain View Road, I wonder how close the line of parked cars will stretch today. Past the bridge over the North Fork at Cherry Creek, I slow way down for mothers with strollers, young children straining at leashed dogs darting onto unfamiliar country roads, and seasoned backpackers bearing alpine poles. A procession seeking out a trailhead. Once, a tired family spread a blanket out and picnicked at the foot of Daryl's driveway. Back before someone put the trail to Cherry Falls on a hiking app, these abandoned logging roads running to the pass could disappear within a season if not traversed enough to keep them cleared. My pace strained against quickened breath, and sweat poured each time I climbed the first hill, before it rounded a curve and I dipped into the cool shade of cedar, hemlock, and abandoned spindly third-growth Douglas fir. Lichen choked out their lower branches in an undergrowth of sword fern and salal. The open paths were lined with salmonberry, dewberry, huckleberry, mahonia, and wild rose, a fruit for every season. My feet sauntered over familiar terrain, a tactile pleasure in the movement of muscle rounding the curvature of earth. I skipped across protruding roots, leapt over dead fallen logs, even in the dark and silence of dusk. Silence and solitude. The only sounds were woodpeckers, ravens, and passerines, or the surprise flush of a ruffed grouse. The only human voice would be a neighbor, Darrell running his dogs every morning, Stuart and Peggy, Claire, Mora, or Mary Lou. Every turn in the path was marked with a cairn or broken stick, and carefully noted to track the way back home again. The map drew itself into a spider web of trails, each vein of rippling water a cartographic tease. Was it Cherry Creek, or Margaret Creek, or did I cross the watershed to Stossel? I first found the neighborhood falls on a back route climbing up and over a ridge, then dropped down under blue sky to an open path above a wetland. Cattails, red-winged blackbirds, and the buzz of dragonfly basked in the warmth of summer sun. I entered a dark forest filled with old-growth cedar, hiding a moss and lichen-covered car abandoned since the 70s, a relic of local history when the hippies had settled in the woods and recreated the character of town. Alone at a small waterfall, I watched a small black bird frolic in a cascade spray dashing off the rocks. American dipper, water ouzel, Clinus mexicanus. Visiting the ouzel became my daily walk throughout the seasons. In cold rain and wet snow, on warm fall days, and with soft fresh bear scat, green and russet first spring buds, and in summer's sweat. No longer, now urban trikers trek our backwoods home. Thank you.
And let's hear from Darren, first time reader at Poetry.
Thank you. I was very much inspired by the Jimi Hendrix and the Ringo poem, so I thought I'd read one about one of my personal musician heroes, David Bowie. It's called Bowie, the Black Star. The stars look very different today. The man we know as David Bowie fell to scars that couldn't be seen. Everybody should know him now, so let's dance and celebrate his life. Like a starman in the sky who came down to meet us and blew our minds. A leper messiah who licked us by smiling and mesmerized through song. He asked for our hands and told us we were wonderful and told us we were not alone. He was a chameleon, comedian, Corinthian, caricature, who went by many names: David Robert Jones, David Bowie, the man who sold the world, Major Tom, Ziggy Stardust, Halloween Jack, Aladdin Sane, the Thin White Duke, the man who fell to earth, the Goblin King, the Blind Prophet, the Black Star. He was all of these and so much more. A rebel who inspired us to express ourselves freely, a hero who inspired us to be our best selves ideally, a black star occupying a space only he belongs. Let us hold on and never let go what he gave us. Thank you. I was inspired by some of the poets on climate change, so I'll read one of that I wrote on my own, called The River Rose. My grandpa and I sat on the dock behind our house, rods cast in river, which occasionally fed us fish. Sustenance for stomach and soul. Who could ask for more? The river rose. Dock we used to sit, submerged. Acid water, fish float belly up. The river rose. Water seeping in our house, staining and rotting wood, parents' worried looks, grandpa's ailing health, no money to import sand. The river rose. The chimney is all that can be seen. Our hopes, our dreams, our lives, swept away. The river rose. Thank you. Time for one more? Okay, this last one is my dad's birthday this week, so I had a poem to honor his lifetime of sacrificing for the family. It's called He Does It So. It's a little bit of a longer one, but anyway. Waking up at 5 a.m. at the crack of dawn, after a long night on the computer, getting files in order and done, he sneaks out of the house, his family not to wake, and drives over 100 miles, the pedal to the metal, no time to break. To rural towns so far away, where he puts on his game show mask and smiles to customers whose loyalty may not be there the next day. So he's got to hustle now for pay. Stand and deliver presentations 7 hours without delay. His throat gets dry, his old bone aches, and later that night he hauls a trunk full of boxes. Oh, how much they weigh. Pinched nerve, torn tendon, tendonitis in the knees, all injuries he has faced and prays. He doesn't awake injured again. As he hauls all the merchandise into a cheap motel, away from everyone, he sleeps alone to repeat the same routine. He does it so to keep the lights on back on at home. He does it so to pay off the loans. He does it so for the family he has known. He loves them so. For them he puts on a brave face to address countless troubles alone. Long days and nights is what he knows. No time to contemplate his anxiety and woes for the family he has known. He loves them so. He does what he has to. He loves them so. He does what he needs to. How hard is it to watch an empire crumble, glory days long past, like a memory fading, never to come back, wells dried up, only a few drops left? The American dream? More like the American theft. Got nothing to do but wait out the time and try to save enough to retire on dwindling sales, a lifestyle long expired. Kids have moved on, scattered out of town. Friends old and dying all around. Everyone's future seems so uncertain. Is this what a hard life of work is supposed to yield before the final curtain? He does it so to keep the lights back on at home. He does it so to pay off the loans. He does it so for the family he has known. He loves them so. He does what he has to. He loves them so. He does what he needs to. His family should spend time more with this man, a brave man, a tough man worth knowing, and hear his voice for what a voice it is, and hear his reaction when we give him thanks to life hard fought, for giving it and us everything that he's got. Thank you.
Nicole,
What I do? What I do?
what you're about to do.
What I'm about to do. Forgive me for what I'm about to do. I love Miss May. Miss Moody May. So this one's about dogs. I'll dedicate this one to May as well. It's lovely that you did. Except in your other poem when you shot the dog and shot your wife in the butt. I was kind of mad at you. Nanosecond lizard brain. For my dogs, Grommet and Budafly. His nose picks up the scent. Nostrils flare, fondling it like fingers, rolling the odors around his brain. Can I eat it? Do I kill it? Will I fuck it? Must I fight it? Does it soothe me? Maybe I'll just roll in it first and take it from there. Poetry as it is. Oh my God, you're a poet? That's so cool. That's so hard. So what do you actually do? I mean, for work? I wish I could write poems. I don't get it. I was sick that quarter in high school. One of my closest friends is a poet. I used to go study with a poet back in college. His dad had been an English teacher and wrote short stories mostly, a gateway drug to poetry, I think. They both got help, but I don't know if either of them ever fully recovered. I think they still pick up the pen now and then. Be patient with poets. Don't judge a poet by their cover. Be sure to praise them when they go outside. But really, we're all nuts when it comes down to it, of mixed poetic background. Write poetry now, ask me how. No rhyme or reason to it. The season for poetry is now. It's kind of a catch and release program. Mostly release. That's what I find, at least. Somewhere there's a painter pining to pen a poem. Thank you and good night, and please tip your poets.
Hamish, Todd, come on down.
Good evening. I have to start out by asking you, if I were to read a poem about Armageddon and it insulted the Bible, would you want to hear that?
Yes. Depends how long it was.
All right. Well, I'm not going to open with it. I'm going to open with, it's the first time I've ever read a piece off my phone, so it's a big deal. And a friend of mine hates it when people do this. So I'm going to dedicate this to Heidi. Sober Musings on Bars. The twinkling of glass, of myriad bottles of various proof. Spirits inhabit stools vacated recently by alcoholics practicing. Glass shelves to hold the bourbons, the color of honey, the color of mead or dark, from Kentucky, the color of sweet crude. Stop it. I can see why I don't do this. Wines lined up like peacetime soldiers, and Grand Marnier and Midori and Kahlua and Frangelico. Clear liquors, vodka and gins, rum and tequila remind me of my youth and days gone by, my career for 20-odd years of slinging whiskey and beers to thirsty masses for tips and wages. You can't imagine this place had hundreds of patrons tripping the light fantastic until the wee hours just a few short hours ago. The booze, for me, is like paintings in a museum. Look, but don't touch. Yet I appreciate the aesthetics, the low light, the animated conversations, and getting blasted with your friends. When I was 38, I was diagnosed with bipolar 1, and my 40s, I spent a significant time in mental hospitals. And I wrote this while in there. I was hyper manic, and so I was also hyper amorous, and I must have fallen in love half a dozen times. For Suzanne. Hey, O'Leary, sorry, I was looking for the real Mackenzie, sweetheart. It's time to bring it down, doing if you like, no joke. Wouldn't setting the record straight go a long way in easing your pain? Even the old witch we've called our mum deserves a break. What life, what chance did she have? Forgiveness is the biggest holy. Let's stop bullying one another for the sake of our grace, for the sake of our kids. A little more gentleness goes a long way towards recovery. And there's a trifold publication called Spread that gets printed every month and gets around Seattle. And Willie and Dave and I have all put pieces in there. And Chris published this piece, so it can't be too horrible, called Armageddon. That was the theme. And I was like, Armageddon, give me a break. Armageddon is a construct of the lying Bible. Your more ardent believers, but your right-wing types, believe that Trump and all this strife was foretold in the book of Revelation. And they drive their SUVs right through the rising tides, placid smiles on their faces as they wait cleansing immolation, releasing them from any responsibility, social or otherwise. And a great many people in our country, like almost half the population, believe this shit. Corruption, pollution, extinction. Well, sure. You've got to go through hell before you can get to heaven, right? No. It's a popular idea and it's spilled over into our culture, but here's the thing. Nostradamus did not foretell mass shootings. Armageddon comes from the same PR firm who brought you the second coming, a shunning, punishing God who would give you all this, then psych, take it all away. America has lost her way, but she will go on. Vote in 2020, wherever you are. Vote twice if you can. Forgive yourself. Hold yourself accountable. Your power is in your mouth and in your pockets. Use your voice and be careful with your money. And never mind this Armageddon nonsense. Be here now and celebrate your circumstances no matter where they are. Woo-hoo! Woo!
Thomas Prince.
Hi, I wasn't actually planning to read, but here I am. I got one little tiny thing memorized. Oh, hi. And yeah, I don't normally name my poems. I just put a date on the top of it, and that's it. But I've got a book going to come out next year on 9 Muses. It's probably going to be the second to last 9 Muses book. But I'm going to be there. It's called Paper House, which is the name of this poem. And I haven't been on stage in a while. I'm trying to build a paper house in a world full of flames. All-consuming darkness, like carbon, blows away. Freedom lies in dissolution, and knowledge lies in sin. Madness calls for full commitment. Then the journey never ends. Trying to build a paper house.
You're serious.
Absolutely.
It's the penultimate poem of the night.
Yeah.
From a dying cockroach. Life never promised much. Born in a crack. Raised in a cage of gargantuan construction. Tortured by a crew of sadistic gods whose every casual step could spell butchery. Chased with rolled newspaper and swatter. Days holed up in the TV, the radio, the washer, the dryer, the radiator, the drain. Nights hustling over floors and up walls, flushed with total fear and garbage lust. Blind feelers wary of death from above, or oases of more trash to gorge, but useless against the greasy poison. Now, as the petroleum distillate clogs a last orifice, I pray my children thrive and spread the gospel of fear.
Hallelujah,
In
brother.
tight places.
And Dan.
This poem has a title and a quote to start with. When music didn't play itself. Louis Armstrong takes iguana to his lips, and he can fucking see that it's an iguana, and thinks, damn, what I do for the music, they have no idea, can't possibly know what blowing fucking iguana is all about. That's from Mark Sargent. Could be a valve, could be a pain meridian, like a bagpipe with the goat still attached. It's beating hard the auto bass, trumpet, crumpet, strumpet, limpets for percussion, conchs for tonal solos. From the Nautilus you get aged music, rushing into current air, knowing it's late for something, knowing collectors are at its door, a slog in a sea of credit, coupons, Groupons, groping into pockets. Couldn't be that deep when someone set up camp, just a layer of cotton from the family jewels set to unfurl their semi-metallic seeds into the pentatonic wind made in darkest New York. Orchestral grapefruit sections, blow and go, e-readers with windshield wipers to keep the music flowing, foxtrot, polka, waltz, dipping on the exhale, buck and winging up the 5-story clarinet, this water slide of weekend spit. The pigeons on the wire are almost Ravel. The 4-dimensional options of an orchestra in zero gravity, insulated boots can't conduct. I want current both direct and alternate, alternational. We don't have those songs because that flute doesn't grow here. When the seed bursts from the pod, make sure its first vision is you, bonded with what it will become, what's playing in the background as I'm forever traumatized and hungry from the mega bass vibrating the windows of my birth. The muse of the morning after resonance, post-human, transpositional. The darkest clouds bring coffee. Sunshine brings earworms. No jam without seeds. Something old, play through something new, crossing on red and flying on green. I flex the bow to make dew dance like spontaneous oil on 1,000-watt cymbal, sheening to short and feedback. Rentering to monk the missing pieces. We have nothing to sphere but music burning through our chromatic table to underground bedrock, so pissed off to be wakened, it tases us with 1,000 lab-grown inorganic strings synthesizing nothing. My trumpet makes the house leak in spasm, so I play in the rain, unsure who just landed on my shoulder. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. As I like to say after poetry readings, it's easy to find poets. It's a lot harder to find people to listen to them. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here. Dan has a few books up here. Willie, for a few dollars, will read you another poem. You know,